Hi, this is Todd, and welcome to the Thrive Singles Podcast. Whether you're single again or still single, stop hating being single and learn to thrive.
Good day. Welcome to Thrive Singles Podcast. I bet you weren't expecting that, were you? And that's exactly what we're talking about today, expectations. But first, welcome back to another week of Thrive Singles Podcast. Glad to have you with me today. Thank you for dialing us up. Lately, the podcast traffic's been picking up. That makes all the hours it takes to do this worthwhile. Shout out to Baldwin, Missouri. We've had a lot of new listeners out in that area. And out in California, especially in Los Angeles, Mountain View, San Francisco, San Jose. And we've had a lot of listeners tuning in from out there. So I appreciate that. Thank y'all for listening. And I'll try to always make this worth your time. Hopefully you'll come to expect that from Thrive Singles Podcast. And that's today's topic, managing expectations. We all have expectations about what single life should be, what married life will be, and what life in general should be. Some of these are reasonable. Others are unreasonable. Some are good and healthy. Others are slowly suffocating our psyche. Perhaps the most unreasonable expectation of all is that our expectations will be reasonable. Of course, they won't be, because we all mess up from time to time. So where do our expectations come from? Are they truly ours, or are they someone else's? Well, they could come from our family. For the first few years of our life, profoundly formative years, no one has more influence on us than our family. So choose your family carefully. Okay, so you don't actually have control over that. We can only hope that they don't do too much damage before we develop enough understanding to critically examine what they teach us. Seriously, think about it. How does what they expect of you influence what you expect of yourself and others? Do they expect too much? Too little? Do they always expect the worst? Do they expect perfection? Family is always a mixed bag. Plan on having to do at least some remedial work as you grow as a person and gain a better perspective of things. Some expectations are taught to us by society. It seems that everything I read, listen to, watch is pushing some agenda, some lifestyle, some ideology. As you consume any media of any type, it will subtly affect your thinking. There's a cumulative effect, and it will affect what you expect from life, yourself, and relationships. However, unlike our family, we do have a lot of control over what we see and hear. If we have unrealistic expectations, it probably has a lot to do with what we allow into our ear gates and eye gates. To paraphrase Zig Ziglar, you can change your expectations by changing what goes into your mind. When it comes to your eyes and ears, learn to be a better gatekeeper. Another source of our expectations are our peers, the people we work with, hang out with, and otherwise spend significant time with. Like culture and unlike family, this is an area where we have a lot of control. Exercise that control. Spend as much time as possible with people who help you get your mind right, and as little time as possible with people who warp your thinking. Now, some expectations come from ourselves, from our own thinking. Well, kind of. To a large extent, I believe we absorb them from society, our family, and our peers. Conditioned by what we see and hear from those sources, we gradually accept the worldview and expectations of other people or institutions as our own. So, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. The only way to trust your own expectations is to make sure we feed our brain a steady stream of good stuff and spend time around people who influence us for good. Sometimes our unrealistic expectations do come directly from within us and are totally our own. They're forged by our life experience. Whether our life so far has been good or bad, we tend to think the future will be more of the same. Because we tend to retain things we have first-hand knowledge of better than things we just hear about, Things we learn through experience can lead to the hardest patterns of all to break free of. The most insidious thing is that it can become self-fulfilling prophecy. We expect a bad outcome, so we don't bother to give it our best effort. That, of course, leads to a bad outcome and fulfills our doom and gloom prophecy. It takes major brain reprogramming to overcome that pattern. It may take changing your viewing and listening habits, spending less time with some people, more time with others, positive affirmations, or other life changes. But diligence pays dividends. You can realistically expect it to take some time and to have a few setbacks along the way, but you can also expect to look back and see your growth over time. Unrealistic expectations lead to disappointment. So don't set yourself up for frustration by entertaining fantasies. You need realistic expectations of yourself, those around you, and your life as a single person. In all these areas, strive to develop expectations that are reasonable and truly your own. But what are realistic expectations and how do you develop them? I'll have more about that next week in Manage Your Expectations Part 2. You might want to go ahead and subscribe. Be sure you don't miss it. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. See you next week. Till then, be sure to subscribe and go check out my extensive archive of past posts at thrivesingles.com. And thrive on.
Whoa, thrive. Yeah, come alive. There's more to life. You gotta grow, you gotta thrive. Whoa, whoa, you gotta thrive. There's more to life than to just survive.